Welcome to Midpoint Monday on 88.5 FM and WMNF.org. I'm Sean Canan. Today on Midpoint, we're going to talk with an advocate for immigrants who can describe what she saw at the Homestead Detention Center under the Trump administration and also what she's concerned about today on the U.S.-Mexico border. Last week, we did not take any phone calls, so today I will save some time for your comments later on in the show by phone, text, and email. You can text and email now, dj@WMNF.org, or text 813-433-0885. So please sign your name if you do end up texting us. Joining us live by Zoom right now is Marina Welch. I spoke with her a couple of years ago about what she saw at the Trump administration's Homestead Detention Camp for migrant children. She's affiliated with a group called the Overground Railroad. We'll find out what that is later on. Welcome back to WMNF, Marina.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm really glad you can join us. So over the weekend, the Associated Press reported that more than 16,000 unaccompanied migrant children were in government custody. That includes about 5,000 in substandard Customs and Border Protection facilities. So tell us what we know about why there are so many migrants, especially kids, crossing the U.S.-Mexico border right now.
Well, first off, we know that Biden ended MPP when he took office. So he was allowing the people in some of the border towns, such as Matamoros, Brownsville, Texas, which I had gone to witness, and they're being allowed in. They had already started asylum proceedings through the courts. And then he's allowing the unaccompanied minors to come in. So they come either with their parents or their parents send them across the border. If they come with the parents are sent back. And my understanding of his policy is we're a kind country. We're going to keep the kids and do what we can for them, which I'm not sure how truly kind that is by not allowing them to stay with their parents. The code is defined as unaccompanied minor as a child who is without a biological mother or father. And yet most of these children, if they are sent over by their parents or the parents are sent back, they have family here. They have a phone number written on their arm in magic marker, and they're supposed to be able to call and get in touch with their family. And yet we're housing them in these facilities, influx shelters, they call them. I like to call them children prisons. Homestead was definitely a prison.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit more about Homestead later on, but right now let's discuss what's going on at the border right this second. And you're describing what you're seeing in photos, at least, as prisons. So for people who haven't seen them, can you describe the photos that are emerging now of teenagers who are being held in Texas? And keep in mind, for maybe a week or a little bit longer, the Biden administration really pushed back against anyone visiting them to get these photos out. But we did finally get to see some of these photos. How would you describe what's happening there?
Well, it's pretty horrendous. And it's my understanding that Representative Cuellar from Texas leaked the photos, the original ones that came out, the ones that are really horrendous of the teens in these facilities, or something like DHS, Department of Homeland Security, is holding 3,889 migrants in a facility that's meant to house 250. So they're sleeping on the floor. They have those, we're back to those Mylar blankets. It's cold, and people are dying. Children, teenagers are dying there. This is the worst of the worst type of situation. So, the best thing we could do now is turn them over to HHS, which is still not ideal. And yet it would be better than keeping them in that facility, marginally better, right? We could get them to the Dallas Convention Center, where at least there's a less chance of them dying. And then from there, work on the process of getting them to the families. That's the goal. I mean, that's my goal, the groups I work with goal. We want to see these children get to their families, not be housed in any kind of facility, Carrizo Springs, is open in Texas. They're opening a second one. The administration is looking at former military installations, several of them, to house families or just the children. It's so unnecessary. It's so unnecessary when they have family or sponsors willing to take them in.
Our guest is Marina Welch. She's an advocate for migrants and is part of a group called the Overground Railroad. This is WMNF's Midpoint Monday on 88.5 FM and on the WMNF app. I'm Sean Canan, and one of the reasons that I think that the Biden administration is maybe not reuniting these families together as quickly as possible is because there's this push from Republicans especially that's very critical of the Biden administration. And they say that the whole reason that there is this influx of migration is because Biden has opened the borders, and that message has gotten out there. I don't know if that's not the message I hear when I hear Joe Biden at a press conference. He says the border is not open, but I think that he's trying to push back against that messaging. So what are your thoughts about what could be done better to I know it's kind of a seasonal migration. Almost every spring, there's a big influx of migration. But is there anything that we can do that would slow the tide of migration?
Slow the tide. Well, that I'm not sure that we could slow the tide. I mean, there's so many reasons that this happens, right? So there's climate change, and there's poverty, and there's political unrest, and we're seeing an influx of Haitians who have walked from Brazil to the Mexican border because Brazil's economy collapsed, and they had gone there after the hurricane of 2010 and did well for years, but then things changed in Brazil, so they're sitting at the border.